Breaking news and stimulating talk. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. A 31-year-old tattoo artist charged with allegedly sexually assaulting a female customer while giving her a tattoo is headed for trial. Douglas Chavez was arrested in February and booked into the Cache County Jail temporarily. According to court staff, Chavez was in First District Court this morning. He was previously charged with one count of forcible sexual abuse, a second-degree felony. Public Defender Joe Saxton asked for the two-day jury trial after previous efforts to work out a plea deal failed. Judge Brandon Maynard scheduled the trial to begin November 4th. He ordered Chavez to appear for a final pretrial conference October 18th. According to an arrest report, Cache County Sheriff's deputies received a complaint February 8th about the possible sexual offense. The alleged victim claimed Chavez touched her inappropriately while performing the tattoo work. The woman explained that the tattoo was to go over the center of her spine and around the middle part of her back. While doing the work, Chavez reportedly pulled her pants down, rubbed her buttocks, and moved his hand forward towards her groin. She said it was previously agreed upon that the tattoo would end several inches above her waistline and that he never asked permission to remove her pants or touch her. The woman told deputies Chavez stated he was looking to see how far down the tattoo could go when she asked him what he was doing. She also showed them text messages where the suspect later apologized for his action, stating that he went a little too far. Deputies made contact with Chavez at the Works Tattoo Studio on February 11th. He refused to answer any questions and requested an attorney before being taken into custody. Chavez reportedly did not speak during today's hearing. He's currently out of jail on pretrial supervision and could face up to 15 years in prison if convicted. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear, cooler, some haze, some smoke from the wildfires tonight, but quite a bit cooler. Temperatures upper 40s for the overnight low tonight. And then sunny around 90 tomorrow. Patchy smoke Tuesday night into early Wednesday. Wednesday's high around 90 degrees. It's been to 85. It's 84 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Polylift. Homeowners, you may have noticed the ground shift after your foundation was poured, causing your house to sink or settle. Protect your investment from issues before they happen. Polylift concrete raising and piering will stabilize, lift, and eliminate further settling by using Magnum piering products to save you big money down the road. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering are the foundation lifting experts. Visit poly-lift.com to schedule your free assessment or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated.
Oh, we live in a great area. Are you just back from a camping trip? Don't take your sleeping bags to the dry cleaner. Come to Mount Logan Laundry. For just a few quarters, our 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers will have those bags clean for your next trip. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
KVNU News Time is 5:09. A 72-year-old Logan man is going to be transferred back to Cache County to face criminal charges. Lloyd Thomas Clark was arrested last month and sent to a Colorado County jail for an unrelated probation violation. According to the warrant affidavit, Logan City Police began investigating Clark after a now 26-year-old woman described being sexually molested years ago. The crimes allegedly occurred around 2003 while the suspect was babysitting the alleged victim. The woman told police how Clark would place his hand underneath her shirt and touch her inappropriately while he was viewing pornography on a computer. She also described being molested by him while swimming at a public pool. The affidavit explained that in June 2007, Clark was arrested after chatting with an undercover police officer in Colorado. During the chats, he stated he had an 11-year-old granddaughter who he had molested and wanted to do more sexual things with. He later denied touching the girl. Logan police contacted Clark in July while he was in the Colorado County Jail after violating his parole. He admitted to groping the girl years ago and also recalled inappropriately touching her while playing hide-and-seek. Prosecutors with the Cache County Attorney's Office filed criminal charges against Clark last week. It included 5 counts of aggravated sexual abuse of a child, a first-degree felony. An initial appearance for Clark has not been scheduled. And when a Utah County mom gave birth much earlier than expected a few days ago, her neighbor, who is a nursing student, stepped in to help. Fox 13 reports Ashley Farnsworth's 4th child was born a few weeks early. Her husband, Kenny, could not make it home in time, but fortunately, their neighbor was still home on break from nursing school. There wasn't enough time to get Ashley to the hospital, so 22-year-old Aliana Rowe sprang into action. The Farnsworths were grateful. They gave their newborn a middle name after the hero nursing student who now has some great hands-on experience. KVNU News Time is 5:11. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
All right, Taylor, you got your cowboy hat?
Check.
Horse?
Already saddled.
Horse trailer?
Of course.
What about your boots?
Still got my pink ones.
What about trucks, Taylor? I'm not seeing very many trucks on our lot at West Motor. I don't want to hear back-ordered, postponed, out-of-stock, microchip shortage, or any of that crap. I want to hear something positive.
I can do that. Hold on to your bootstraps, because it's time for the famous West Motor Rodeo Day sale.
It's no secret that inventory is limited, but the quickest and best way to get your new Ram truck is to have one built especially for you. Get the features you want, the equipment you need, and the right color without paying for anything that you don't want. We'll throw in some big discounts, and Ram will build that truck just the way you like it.
That's what we do around here. We find solutions.
Simply come into West Motor Company in Preston, and we'll get your new Ram truck ordered and send you home with a couple of our famous West Motor Rodeo jackets.
West Motor, how the West was won. WestMotorCompany.com.
Trouble with pain, sleep, or anxiety? Want better health? Try CBD7, the CBD experts. You simply can't get this water-soluble CBD at grocery, convenience, or health food stores. Water-soluble CBD7 absorbs 15 times better and tastes great. CBD7 has the only clinically proven formula with real measurable results. Many feel better in minutes. CBD7 is not a drug and has no side effects. Other CBDs just can't do all that. Visit CBD7 today. Learn about CBD and try our best for free.
Attention homeowners, you may have noticed the ground shift after your foundation has been poured, causing your house to sink or settle. Protect your investment from issues before they happen. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering will stabilize, lift, and eliminate further settling by using Magnum Piering products to save you big money down the road. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering are the foundation lifting experts. Visit poly-lift.com to schedule your free assessment or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated. If you're like most local residents, you have a huge influx of creepy crawlers invading your home. Right now, the nasty elm seed beetle is all over northern Utah, but there is a solution. Call Logan Extermination today for a full exterior spray. Their full exterior spray includes foundations and eaves and will kill those nasty spiders, wasps, box elder bugs, and the new nuisance elm seed beetles. And best of all, prices start at only $85. Call Logan Extermination today for details. 752-8450.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, Hour 2 of today's show. It is a less smoky, at least less hazy, Monday afternoon, August 9th. Slightly less, I guess I should say. It looks like it's building back up.
It looks like it's coming back.
Yeah. Well, it got a little...
Maybe you went to Salt Lake for the day or something.
The sky was slightly blue this afternoon, and we'll take that. We might get a break on this, might not. Southern Utah is right now, as I understand it. They actually something changed, and they're actually getting blue skies down there. Some photos being shared from Zion National Park with an actual blue sky in southern Utah, something that hasn't been seen for a couple of weeks, thanks to the smoke. Most of it coming out of that, again, Dixie Fire in... It's Northern well, is that technically Northern California?
I think
it's
so.
kind of just barely above Central, right?
Oh, I'll have to look again. I thought
maybe
it was,
that's where it started.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's the only fire, too. I think there are other fires. The one I was thinking of was like kind of directly west of us. So that that would obviously be Northern
I'll have to Google this during the break. I know that I was reading over the weekend the Dixie Fire, they're calling it in California, is headed to be the largest fire in California on record.
Yeah, there's that little...
Right now it's the second largest at 450,000 acres burned.
Little town of about 3,000 people.
Sure.
Downtown was virtually destroyed.
That's as this fire came through, yeah. It's just it's a horrible situation, and it's just in an area that is nearly impossible to contain for various reasons anyway. But that's where as I understand, most of the smoke is coming from. If they do get that fire under wraps within the next few days, then a few days after that, we should see the smoke clear out. It's still going to be a little hazy after that because, as Bill mentioned, there are others, and one in Oregon, it sounds like, a few in Idaho even. So hopefully this is not something we have to get used to every summer. We've got our winter inversions, and then we'll have our summer... just, I don't know, smoke skies, I guess. But, it's too bad. It like I say, we may get a break mid to end of the week. Fingers crossed for that. But nothing guaranteed when it comes to the way air moves. And that's an understatement, to say the least. But I was kind of excited by this. You've all probably had this experience, but you see a headline... So something I do for this show is I try to, you'd be surprised how much ground you can cover news reading wise and in fact, if you find yourself, if you've ever thought, I wish I read more or stayed more connected to what's going on in the world or the nation or the state or the county, set 30 minutes aside. You would be surprised. This is something I've learned only because of the show, actually, over the last, I didn't realize this, Bill, but sometime this week we actually hit 14 years for me, officially.
Wow.
It was during the county fair in 2008. Then Tyler Riggs said, I was filling in still at that point in my mind. I thought that's what I was doing. I didn't know I was interviewing. I was filling in, helping Tyler out at the county fair. Tom and Ryan had already moved on, and I'd started filling in when they were both here, and that's when I kind of caught the bug. And Tyler turned to me as we were packing up from the county fair live remote and said, do you want to do this? Do you want? Will your schedule allow you to do this every afternoon? I said, probably for some time. Yeah, I'll do it for a few months.
And there were a few other people that were kind of in the wings, too.
14 years later. 14.
Wow.
Huge. Did not plan that, but man, has it been fun. Anyway, so it's
been an honor.
Something I've learned in those 14 years is that you don't have to spend hours. Set 30 minutes aside and tell yourself that 30 minutes you're just going to go through some of the headlines from make sure one mistake you should never make is don't have your favorites and just read your favorites. You'll get in what's called a silo. And sometimes it's an innocuous silo, like you're just getting what they choose to report on. Other times you're actually getting the lean of that worse with the national organizations, but you're getting their lean a little bit. Some lean left, some lean right. And of course, make sure it's a credible news organization, not something that your uncle shared on Facebook. That's everyone knows that. But that's my recommendation. It doesn't take hours to be up on the headlines of the day. And I'm not saying I do a great job of it every day. There are some days when, I'll be honest, I come in here and haven't had a chance to really look at the news at all. And if it weren't for the guests that I already had lined up, I wouldn't have time to kind of scan the news and talk about some of the big stories of the day. So it happens to all of us. No one can stay permanently 100% informed. No one ever is. But if you feel like the news is getting away from you or it's bugging you that you feel out of the loop on some things, especially local things, just put 15, 30 minutes. I mean, really, just 15, 30 minutes, say to yourself, this is when I'm going to sit down, I'm going to read, from 2 or 3 news outlets. I'm going to read through the headlines and click on a few stories and read the whole stories. You'd be amazed how much ground you can cover in that short a period of time. Anyway, so while I was doing that today, this is something I choose to do on a lunch break that I usually take around the same time every day. But that probably is less true than I think. It's probably a different time every day. Either way, I get some food or I make some food if I'm working from home, and I spend 30 minutes looking through state media, Cache Valley media, just kind of reading things. I even usually visit USU's news page and things like that, city websites, city newsletters, and I 30 minutes, that's it, and I just kind of scan through. In doing that today, I ran across this article that, and we've all had this experience. I see the headline and I'm excited. I think, I'm reading this, and I click on it, and then the story, as it plays out, just keeps getting more and more. I don't know what words fit here. Disappointment's definitely one. Alarm is another. Probably didn't get to the point of panic yet, but this is a story of data. How much the tech giants, quote unquote, I don't even know what that means anymore, really. But the big ones, Facebook, Instagram, Google, Apple, there are others as well. Your broadband provider, any company you've purchased anything from digitally in the last year, everyone's collecting data on you. And we all know of some of the scandals. Probably the most notable, the Cambridge Analytica scandal. By the way, if you haven't seen it, watch The Great Hack on Netflix if you want to understand why the Cambridge Analytica scandal and Facebook and how that tied in with the presidential campaigns going on at the time, why that's so concerning. It's called The Great Hack. It's a great watch, kind of scary. But either way, they're collecting all this data on you. And I'm a defender of this in a way. I think it's kind of... Reality is you have a choice right now. You go off the grid, which is probably easier said than done at this point, unless you want to shut parts of your life down. You're going to have to be on the grid at times. Or you embrace it, but embrace it smartly. And we've talked on the show before about ways that you can, and these are simple Google searches, ironically, to find instructions on how to do this. But there are ways you can manage your data, protect your privacy. You can make smarter decisions with what you do with your electronic devices that can go a long way to making sure the data that is collected about you is at least somewhat filtered and considerate of your privacy. But in the end, they're going to be collecting data on you. And it's scary when you see how much can be pieced together about you. I told the story on the show a little while ago. This is a New York Times article. You can still read it, and it's linked somewhere back in the Facebook feed for the show at the For the People Facebook page. But it was a story of a man who went to visit his mom in New Mexico. He lived in New York. He goes to visit his mom for a week in New Mexico. He gets back to New York, and he starts getting email advertisements for her very peculiar choice of toothpaste. And he starts digging. This is what he does. He's a digital forensic investigator is his job title. So he starts digging. And what he finds out is that her phone and his phone, while he was there visiting his mom for a week, were talking. And enough data was exchanged that they'd realized, there's a link between these two people. Their phones have been in proximity of each other for a week, but haven't been, for the previous long period of time, however much the algorithms were looking back. And so they make this connection, and what they do is they trial balloon things. They're not sure you'll be interested, but hey, it costs them nothing to try, literally, and they have the data there already. So why not see if this gentleman is interested in this odd, hard to find organic toothpaste that his mom liked to use, purchased only from a certain specific chain. We'll throw it at him. Maybe he'd like some too, because he was there talking to her, and they had a conversation that Alexa heard, Amazon's Alexa, about this toothpaste.
Wow.
That was enough to mean he started seeing ads and emails about this toothpaste. Just because he was there in his mom's house for a week visiting her, they had a conversation about this toothpaste. Alexa's listening. And then again, it costs them nothing to trial balloon it and say, hey, do you want to buy this toothpaste too?
The world we live in.
It's frightening if you think about it. It's not as frightening as it sounds. Because, again, you can protect yourself.
I think as is, it doesn't sound frightening. I guess it's
where it could go.
The prospects, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How could this technology be used?
Yeah, and it gets even scarier when you start. Jonathan Choate. We'll have to invite him on to talk about this. Jonathan can go on forever about the physical side of this. And that's where the real risks come in, like central storage points that can, at least theoretically, be hacked, and will one day probably. Odds are. So yeah, that's where it gets really scary. But you can protect yourself. There are easy ways to do it. There are hard ways to do it. If you really, really, really want to go down that rabbit hole, there are people who do, and more power to them. This article, though, took a whole different perspective, and we'll get to it here in just a minute. The article is basically titled, "They're making money off of your data. Why don't you?" But that's where things got weird. We'll talk about it right after this.
We live in a very special place. There are a few places where you can snow ski in the morning, then play golf in the afternoon. Hike a trail, water ski, take a 70-mile bike ride, then go fly fishing. I'm Dee Jones, and I'm running for Logan City Mayor. I'm a local business owner and know the struggles independent small businesses face. I have 35 years marketing and business solutions experience. I know how to balance a budget and where to cut costs. I'm Dee Jones. I'm running for Logan City Mayor, and I'm asking for your vote.
Paid for by Dee Jones.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that Smokey's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when there are parched or windy conditions out there, you gotta be extra careful with things like burning yard waste. After all, wildfires can start anywhere, even in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Glenn Beck.
The government should have no say in your lifestyle choices or your business. They shouldn't even be advocating for your business one way or another, or your personal business. All they need to worry about is how can we help people do what they need to do, what they believe. How can we stay out of the way?
The Glenn Beck Program.
Sunday afternoons from 2 to 5 on News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Kind of a long setup for this article I wanted to discuss because I get excited about this. It's the nerd world that I live in up until I check out of that world and into the radio world around 4 o'clock live showtime every day. It's fun stuff to me. It's interesting, even if I acknowledge that it's creepy in ways. But yeah, short version, a lot of data is being collected about you. Not much you can do about it unless you want to go off the grid, but you can take some steps to stay safe, protect your privacy, and otherwise embrace it. It is possible. This article, though, that I found during my prep for the show reading, it just kind of got me excited. I've always wanted to read a lengthy, deep dive into this very thing. But little did I know that this was going to be a disappointing and even at certain points alarming read. The article itself is simply titled, "They're Making Money Off of Your Data, Why Don't You?" And I thought, yeah, exactly. Tech giants, and again, who knows what that means? It's just
I'll sell them my data, and
really, that's the thing. It is your data. It's obviously valuable to them. At very least, you should get a discount on the smartphone, right? To be honest with you, I think there's a decent argument that the big manufacturers like Apple and Google through the Android phones, and maybe even the other manufacturers, I don't know, they're more third party, but the Apple iPhone and any Android phone made directly by Google, which is the Pixel line right now, they're calling it, those should be free. You should just get those from Android and Google if you want one, or from Apple and Google, because they're making so much money off of your data. What you're paying for those phones, and the good ones aren't cheap, or the big ones aren't cheap, I should say. There are good ones that are cheap. That's just like extra money for them, and they're already making a lot of money off of you. They should just give, if you sign up to use their phone, they should just give it to you for what they're making off of your data. So can you do the same thing? The short version is kinda. The longer version is, if you try, you're actually going to make this whole experience worse for yourself, and they're going to fight you on it every step of the way, even though it's your data. And this all comes down to the simple concept, which is explained in the article. By the way, I've linked to this. It's from an organization, business magazine, basically called Work Life. And it comes down to the fact that not all data is equal, meaning that just because it's data you generate by using your phone, which is where most of the money, Facebook and Google and companies like that, that's where they're making most of their money. Your quote-unquote anonymized location data. Where do you travel? Where do you go? What do you buy? How often do you shop online? Where do you shop online? Where do you go physically? Is it a store? Is it a brick-and-mortar store? Is there something online that's an equivalent that they can maybe pitch at you? This is the kind of thing that's happening every second, every half second of your day, as you go around with a smartphone in your pocket, or as you sit at a computer, a laptop, looking at websites. That happens then too, but more so when you're walking around with your smartphone in your pocket. And there's big money in this, and the reason there's big money in this is people make a lot of money taking all this data and coming up with some very, very hyper-targeted marketing and advertising. Does it work to a large extent? No. In fact, their success rate is about 8%. But it costs them so little to do this once they have access to your data, the companies that buy it from Facebook and Google and Apple, that is, it costs them so little to send, 500,000 emails, for example, or to pay Instagram to have 500,000 people see their Instagram ad. It costs them so little money to do that they just try, and 8% ends up being 8% success rate actually ends up being a huge profit margin for them. So it's way worth it. Can you do the same thing? I mean, really? As I read the article, as I kept going through the article, technically, again, yes. There's something called a points game that you can play, basically, in which you can, receive kickbacks, money back from all kinds of services, from Spotify to just simple survey services. But the problem is so few people are doing that the margin of profit is so small, you're not going to get a lot back. In fact, one service that is talked about here in the article, you get about a cent per month for taking a survey a day from an organization called Citizen Me. You can actually get that up to, if you answer 10 questions anytime they ask, you can actually get that up to 13 cents a month. That's not a lot of money. That's the same money that these companies that specialize in this are making, but they're doing it on such a broad scale, millions and millions of Facebook users, for example, that it's profitable. For an individual, ironically, it isn't worth your time. So this is an economy of scale. This is an economy of volume. If billions of people weren't contributing to all of this, it wouldn't be worth it for them. Facebook would struggle. Google would go under. The smartphone manufacturers and the main ones, Android and iPhone, Apple and Google, basically, they would struggle. This entire system is basically built on the fact that billions of people are sometimes unwillingly contributing billions of terabytes of data per day into the system. And you get that much to work with, and it's so cheap to send an email or pay to have an ad display in an Instagram feed or on a Facebook scroll. It's cheap enough to do that. It becomes profitable. Without all of those factors, though, to answer the question, can you make money off of your own data? You absolutely can. There are quiz services, survey services. There are even customer secret shopping programs. You can get involved in just selling your data directly to data collection agencies, marketing agencies. They'll let you do that. You can contract with them. You can just agree for a period of time. The problem is, again, yes, you can monetize your data the same way Facebook is, the same way Instagram is, the same way Google and Apple are doing with your data. But where you're working with just yourself, your individual data, it's worthless in and of its own. 13 cents a month was basically the most the author of this article at WorkLife could make, selling his data the exact same way Apple and Google and Facebook and Instagram were doing. Doing exactly the same thing. 13 cents a month was his big haul. Not worth your time. But again, expand that out and have billions of users' data to work with, new data coming in every hour of every day. At that point, it becomes profitable. So until you get to that scale, yes, the answer is you can monetize your own data. It isn't worth your time. Check it out. A really interesting article, especially when he explains how he did this research in the first place, which is fascinating in of itself. 6 months of his life trying to make money off of his own data in the same way Facebook does, couldn't make it worth his time. And yet Facebook, billions of dollars a year. Check it out. A link to the article on our Facebook page. On the other side, Senators Mike Lee and Mitt Romney both weighing in on the infrastructure bill, which is about to pass another hurdle towards passage in the United States Senate. Both of them staking out very different ground on this one. We've got clips of their most recent remarks after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:37. The news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. Authorities say a 7-year-old Utah boy died from burns he received after he and a friend played with matches. KSL-TV reports that Salt Lake City police officials said that the two boys were melting a fence with matches and an accelerant on Saturday night. The 7-year-old boy's clothes caught fire. A neighbor wrapped a blanket around him to extinguish the flames. Almost all of the boy's body was severely burned. He was taken to Primary Children's Hospital in critical condition and later died. The boy's friend, a 9-year-old boy, was not injured. Smoke from wildfires burning in California and other parts of the U.S. West continues to flow into parts of Utah and Colorado. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment ranked the air quality in many areas of the state as unhealthy on Sunday, though conditions in the Denver area were relatively better than the day before. The National Weather Service in Salt Lake City says northern and central parts of Utah are expected to remain smoky at least through midweek. The smoke has made the air quality in Salt Lake City and Denver among the worst in the world. And a woman who fainted and hit her head on a rock after stopping to rest in Utah's Arches National Park woke up to hear a familiar voice and wondered if she might be watching television. Minnie John of Oradell, New Jersey, then questioned whether she might know the woman who was with the doctor helping her or if she was famous, according to an August 3rd post on Facebook. After the doctor gave her the hint, Modern Family, John says she finally recognized one of her helpers as Julie Bowen from the long-running comedy series. The doctor was Bowen's sister, Annie. KVNU News Time is 5:39.
My friend John Hansen at the Duck Hunter has constantly educated you about the need for ductwork cleaning in your home. But what about your cabin or summer home outside the valley? You need that home's ductwork cleaned too. With high pollen counts in the mountains, dust always in the wind, and road construction ever present, the old adage of out of sight, out of mind is bad. Give the Duck Hunter a call at 770-4813 to clean out those dirty ducts in your summer home.
We are the Duck Hunter. Breathe better, save money. Protect your home. We are the Duck Hunter.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear, cooler areas of haze and smoke, overnight low in the upper 40s, and then sunny around 90 on Tuesday. Patchy smoke through the night Tuesday night, low around 50, and then sunny, patchy smoke in the morning on Wednesday, again around 90 degrees. We've stayed in the 80s this afternoon. 85 has been our high. It's 82 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Pharmacy, featuring the best prices in the valley and, as always, free delivery. If you're in the market for a prescription, check with Cache Valley Pharmacy first for the absolute best price, especially on compounds and insulin. Order your prescriptions online at cachevalleypharmacy.com. For more details on these and other stories, visit cachevalleydaily.com.
Oh, little piggy, let me in or I'll blow this building down.
Nice try, Wolfie, but this here building's made from steel.
All right then, here goes. Gosh, that didn't work.
A building from Northern Steel Buildings will keep out the big bad wolf, and they don't break the piggy bank. Visit northernsteelbuildings.com to see their quality work or call 435-677-7300. Northern Steel Buildings. Value from concept to construction.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. Having workers return to the office this fall seemed to be mostly on track. Then came the Delta variant of the coronavirus. Hear how managers are pivoting. Also, due to the pet adoption boom during the pandemic, coupled with staff shortages, veterinarians face high demand. And the Amazon sellers who want to negotiate your negative review. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you. You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. United States Senators Mike Lee and Mitt Romney from here in Utah speaking out on the infrastructure bill that is, at this point, looking like a go. It's still tentative for the Democrats, or precarious, I guess we should say, for the Democrats. With they have the 50-vote majority, but that's they can't afford to lose any Democrats, obviously, and they need to convince a few Republicans to go along in order to get this thing done. And then, of course, if you've been following this, there's a larger reconciliation process, budget, a spending package that will go along with this, that the House and Senate Democratic majorities can work out without Republicans. So it's a big, broad thing that's happening right now, but specifically this infrastructure bill is one that is getting a lot of attention here in Utah because, well, one, Utah would like to see this money come. The Governor Cox and legislative leaders said a few weeks ago that though they had concerns about the bill and felt like it was too large, they welcome a federal government investment in roads, bridges, expanding broadband internet, things that the Speaker of the House, Brad Wilson, said Utah really could use an investment in at this time, not just because the infrastructure is falling behind, especially when it comes to bridges here in Utah, but also because it's economic jumpstart a bit. A lot of people employed over the next few years with this money, building bridges and roads and things like that, water pipes. So there's an aspect of this that has been really interesting as well, because it is the first time in many, many years that a bill could be described as having, quote, bipartisan momentum behind it, meaning that the two parties, though they haven't reached a specific agreement yet, and though the bill hasn't been actually voted on yet, there have been a couple of votes to move the bill ahead in which Republicans joined Democrats, and that is a first in quite some time. But also there are Republicans actively working with Democrats on crafting this legislation, which is also something that stopped happening a few years ago, and it's unfortunate that stopped happening. So it's getting a lot of attention for those reasons. But one of the reasons I've been paying attention to this is that our United States senators here in Utah, Mike Lee and Mitt Romney, have been at different times on polar opposite ends of this legislation. To sum it up as succinctly as possible, though grossly oversimplifying their positions, Senator Mitt Romney is in support, though is concerned about final price tags and pay-fors and things like that. Senator Mike Lee has been opposed from the get-go. He said several times he's not opposed to an infrastructure spending bill. He is very much opposed to this one. He feels like it spends way too much, and he also feels like now isn't the right time to be doing something like this. He hasn't said when in the future would be the right time, but he said, right now is not when he would select to do a big infrastructure spending bill. So it's about a $1 trillion bill. I mean, we don't really know for sure, but what we do know looks like it's going to be about a $1 trillion infrastructure package, and it's called I've got to scroll back here to find this, the infrastructure, and it doesn't matter. It's got a big lofty name that sounds great and looks great on paper. Anyway, again, the interesting part of this for me has been watching Senator Mike Lee and Senator Mitt Romney, both here representing Utah in Washington, D.C., in the United States Senate, and seeing them come down on very different sides of this one again and again. In fact, this is just a little bit of what Senator Mike Lee had to say about the bill after an initial vote. Now, this vote, if you're not familiar with the Senate, this wasn't a vote on the bill or any details of the bill. In fact, there is no bill, or was no bill at the time. There are bits and pieces of a bill now. But when this vote happened last week, it was a vote to move ahead. It's called a cloture vote, and it basically says you're voting to open up some official Senate time to debate this specific bill. A lot of times this is when a bill dies. They can kill a bill. The minority party usually does this, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, doesn't matter. Whoever's in the minority, that's usually when they'll use this tool, if they have the votes to do so, to kill a bill before there's any debate or discussion of amendments or anything like that. So that vote happened last week. Senator Mitt Romney was a vote for moving ahead to debate the bill. Senator Mike Lee was a vote against moving ahead to debate the bill. And over the weekend, he said this on Fox News, his take on this infrastructure bill that, again, is taking another step today and moving towards what will be a debate and I would guess final passage possibly within the next week. Here's what Senator Mike Lee had to say in an interview on Fox News yesterday.
It's a terrible bill, and look, this is yet another inflation bomb dropped on an already carpet-bombed economy. This is something that reinforces the false notion that the federal government is in charge of everything. Yes. And it's also based on a false notion that this is principally about infrastructure, which it isn't. And by the way, most infrastructure isn't federal and should never be in the first place. This is going to make everything more expensive for Americans. It causes inflation. Inflation hurts the poor and middle class more than anyone else.
That was, again, Senator Mike Lee just yesterday on Fox News. Just a couple of days before that, Senator Mitt Romney actually spoke to a group of Republican Party organizers and others from a group touring the Capitol or touring Washington, D.C., not the Capitol. And when he spoke at that event, many members of the news media on hand. And here's what Senator Romney had to say about the same bill that Senator Mike Lee was speaking to there in his interview. Senator Mitt Romney now.
This is not going to raise taxes on people. This is instead taking some money that was already appropriated, not used for COVID relief. We're going to bring that back and use it to help build infrastructure. This is a bill which is paid for and that gives the American people say they desperately need, and that is an upgrade in our infrastructure. Now, of course, you know it was several months ago that this group came together. We call ourselves affectionately the G10. Senator Portman and Senator Sinema have shown enormous patience and persistence and resolve getting this across the finish line. I want to thank also particularly Senator Capito for laying out the foundation for what we proposed at the very beginning, which we built upon and has led to the final piece of legislation. As has been said, neither side got everything we wanted. There are a bunch of things in this bill I don't like, I'd take out. There are things in this bill I know my Democrat friends don't like and would take out. But the nature of getting work done in Washington is to be able to come up with something that has enough good for both that we actually get it done. And the American people have been waiting, one president after another, saying, let's improve our infrastructure, and it just doesn't get done.
That was, again, Senator Romney speaking just a couple of days ago. Before that, you heard Senator Lee speaking just yesterday. And as you've heard, two completely opposite takes on this. Senator Lee very much opposed from the get-go, even with the cloture vote last week, which was a vote to debate the bill, not a vote on the bill itself. Senator Romney, a part of the group of 10 senators working on this bill and defending it, saying it doesn't raise taxes and it is paid for. It's been very interesting. Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, also a Republican, one of the lead Republican negotiators, said that it's overdue, this bill. The work needed, he said, on the nation's public works system is long overdue. And Senator Mitt Romney reiterated yesterday, said he acknowledged that no compromise is perfect, and doing nothing when there is a bill before them is just not an option. Senator Lee says he will be a no vote unless great things change with this bill, meaning a lot of things change with this bill. Senator Romney, of course, saying he'll support it as long as it stays where it's at. And he said for him, that comes to, is it paid for already? So we'll see. Still some hurdles for this one. Again, it's not a done deal for the Democrats. This would be a big win for President Biden should it pass. So there are some politics involved here in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. But just, again, interesting to me to see two very different approaches from both of our senators, Senator Mike Lee and Senator Romney, on the same piece of legislation. We'll see if it passes. Voting will probably go into late tonight, early tomorrow morning on the second vote to move ahead. The Senate's a kind of complicated, messy system. After that, debate will begin, and there may or may not be an amendment process, which could stretch out for days. And eventually there will be a vote on a final bill. So we'll keep you posted, and we'll also keep you posted on where Senators Lee and Romney are at on this legislation, should their positions change. We'll be back with more of KVN News for the People right after this.
Honey, cover your eyes. Now step outside so I can show you your birthday present.
Okay.
Now, open your eyes. Happy birthday, a new car.
Oh, wow, hey, look at the neighbor's shrubs. Did they just have them trimmed and shaved?
Yeah, but the car, it's red, your favorite color.
They trimmed those huge oak trees, too. Look at their...
Honey, the car, do you like it?
Yes, thank you. But I can't believe how good the neighbor's yard looks. It's like something out of a magazine.
Next year, I'm calling Hull Tree Care for your birthday. I'll save a bunch of money, too.
Call Hull Tree Care, 760-6587. Ask about the radio discount for trimming and shaping trees and shrubs. They also do tree and stump removal. Call 760-6587. Serving all of northern Utah and southeast Idaho. Online at hulltreecare.com.
Hi, my name is Morgan Hansen, your Cache County Fair and Rodeo Queen's second attendant. Come join us August 11th through the 14th for the Fair and Rodeo. There are lots of amazing booths and vendors this year to check out along the way. We also have the carnival coming back. Don't forget that carnival and rodeo tickets can be purchased at the fair or online at cachecounty.org. Bring your friends and family for a fun-filled week.
So come on out, let's have some fun at the Cache County Fair.
Ah, that's better. Trade in the stresses of building a new home for relaxation. Visionary Homes Priority is giving you a stress-free building experience. Named the best home builder in northern Utah, Visionary Homes team will guide you seamlessly through the home building process. Call today, 435-228-4702, or visit visionaryhomes.com to learn more about upcoming communities in Nibley, Logan, and Smithfield. Visionary Homes, built for living, built for you.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
This is Mike Miller with Cache Valley Bank. We love supporting local businesses and are proud to support the new Center Street Market in downtown Logan every Wednesday during the summer. The market opens at 8 a.m. and all of the merchants will be local businesses from right here in Cache Valley. Cache Valley Bank invites everyone to the Center Street Market in downtown Logan. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Every Saturday morning at 9, you get information to prepare you with retirement solutions for the journey ahead. It's Smart Money Ascent with Clayton Alexander of Teton Wealth Group.
How do we solve that number one fear or that number one concern? Make sure you never run out of money.
And Teton Wealth Group's Ethan Miller.
Then, when you leave Teton, when you leave our offices, you're going to have a plan that you're both excited about.
It's where your retirement questions are answered. Smart Money Ascent, Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Listener, back to that previous segment there, talking a little bit about Senator Mitt Romney and Senator Mike Lee taking out very, very different ground, staking out very different ground on this infrastructure bill. Listener wanted to know why I predict it will pass. I guess I want to reel that back in a little bit. I don't necessarily predict it will pass. I think the odds are high. So I'm not predicting this infrastructure bill actually gets done. Congress is a mess lately. Although I have a feeling if former Congressman Rob Bishop were here, which he will be soon, by the way, I feel like he'd correct me on that. He was constantly telling me, both on air and when we talked off air at times over various things, it's not as dysfunctional as you think. There's a lot more getting along and getting things done than cable news is capable or interested in reporting on. So he said it's a false image that's created. I think the last few years were maybe a little more in the direction of the dysfunction that is at least created in an image by cable news. So I'm surprised that this quickly some bipartisan thing is happening. At the same time, just because they slap bipartisan on it doesn't mean it's a good idea or that everyone on board is equally as supportive and willing to fight for it should it get a little rocky in the next week. So what I'm trying to say is I reel that back in. I don't predict this will pass, but I think the odds are very high for it passing. Listener also wanted to know what this means for Utah, why legislative leaders are weighing in on this. Well, the reason they're weighing in on this is legislative leaders in every state, not just Utah, think they're very important and think that people want to know what they think about stuff, so they release statements. And sometimes it's awkward because sometimes I want to call the Speaker of House and say, why do you think anyone cares what you think about this subject? But I don't because he's a nice guy. But sometimes I really want to ask what they're thinking when they release statements on things that have nothing to do with the Utah State Legislature. Anyway, the reason they're weighing in is they want to stake out their own ground. They want to show that legislative leadership here in Utah is supportive of some kind of infrastructure spending bill. And the reason they do that is, of course, this is a blue administration, a Democratic administration, and Democratic majorities in the House and the Senate. So this is red states signaling that they'd like something to happen on this front. The hope there is that it encourages the bipartisanship so that it passes. And so that, I'm sure this is what legislative leaders here in Utah are thinking, so that Republicans in the Senate have an opportunity to influence the bill instead of just opposing it and having it pass without them, which this one probably wouldn't. So I'm surprised for that reason as well that the bipartisanship is happening. The reason legislative leaders have said, at least, that they're excited about some infrastructure spending is that it's an issue here in Utah. We learned during the pandemic, the Speaker of the House said that Utah's broadband map is inadequate. Too many communities cut off from what is, at this point, basically a public utility. Even if we're not calling it that in our public policy, it is that, really. When it comes to education, the Speaker of the House said here in Utah, Speaker of the House Brad Wilson, Republican from Taylorsville, he said, whether you call it a public utility or not doesn't matter. It's important for education. It's important for the economy. Few people would find working or learning or getting through life easy cut off, and too many Utahns are exactly that, especially in our rural areas. So in that sense alone, some federal spending on infrastructure is an appropriate and timely thing. That's from the statement of Speaker of the House Brad Wilson. Again, whether this passes or not and where it goes, that'll be an interesting discussion too. States will have a lot of leeway to decide where the money goes, how many bridges get fixed and how many don't. We'll see. This is all playing out around you right now, and we'll keep you posted.